to the we're in the second month now of the year. All right, so we're gonna get everything going. Um, let's give a like a overview, right? Um, all right, so we're going to an overview. Shalom, shalom. We're going to an overview of this second month. Now, we know everything has a numerical value in the Bible, in nature, in the scriptures. Everything revolves around numbers, math, value. Everything revolves around motion, cycles. Everything basically revolves around math and geometry. Whether you're talking about a baby, or you're talking about building a house, or you're talking about nursing, or you're talking about a baby being born, or you're talking about a vehicle, gas, books, reading, pages, syllables, paragraphs, the letters, the words, everything revolves around math. And the Bible is no different. The Bible revolves around math. In cycles, we see the beginning of Genesis. Yahweh says, in the beginning. And then we have him counting day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We see Yahweh count 7 days, right? Shalom, shalom. Now, going into the second month, this same principle of math and counting applies to pretty much everything we do in life, especially when it's done according to, Yahweh's schedule, Yahweh's timing, and the models that Yahweh has given us. We as humans, we operate inside of a celestial or cosmic model. All right. We have an eternal structure that Yahweh put into place called the universe. And inside this eternal structure called the universe, we exist, and we're very small. But the apparatus of creation is infinite outside of us. And if you want to get scientific about it, inside of our bodies, we're infinitesimal, which means it goes on smaller and smaller and smaller. And it always goes smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's like your body is a buffer zone between the infinitesimal, smaller and smaller, and the infinite, bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, so within this framework, we see events happening to us for the first time, but universally speaking, it's happening within a cycle. So we're in this second month now. And this second month, when you read the scriptures, and when you look at the words that are used to identify the second month, it gives us a very clear indication of a few things. It gives us a very clear indication of unity in leadership. Okay, it gives us a very clear indication of unity in leadership. It gives us a very clear indication of household structure. It gives us a very clear benefit of working together within our families, our households, and our nation for the benefit of the nation and for the benefit of your progeny, of your descendants. All right, and these are things that are clear inside of the scriptures. All right, these are things that are clear inside the scripture. And Dr. Hassan, we don't need you around here. All right, so you can go ahead on. All right. All right. So again, let's start off by talking about the new moon itself. The new moon itself that we're in right now happened at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right. So that gives us and shows us the principle of being able to forecast, like it's going to rain tomorrow, it's going to be snow or whatever. That gives us the principle to see in advance when the new month will start, because we can calculate when these times coordinate in different time zones. So the new moon event happened at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, it happened at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Give me the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 32, real quick. I don't know which one is better for the book of Job. I think it's this one. All right, here, take that. Give me this one. So let's look at Job chapter 38, verse 32. And let's read that. All right, Job chapter 38, verse 32. So what we're doing is going into the scriptures and kind of explaining the framework to you, which, you know, a lot of you, let's cut that off too, which a lot of you already know about, like the framework of creation. All right, so in Job chapter 38, 32, we're going to see this framework being described. All right, read that. And it says, truly, you will open Masharah in its seasons. All right. So Masharah in its seasons is talking about the stars in the constellation, the 12 groups of stars in the constellations. So right now, when the new moon happened, the event, because remember the new moon can be three things. It's the actual day of the new moon, that day. It's the event of the new moon in a specific time and space. Okay, and those are the two that we'll go into right now. So the time and space that it happens, and the event of the new moon. All right, the day of the new moon, and then the new moon is of course the actual moon in the sky when it's new. So those are the new moons. All right, those are the new moons. How we look at the word new moon, or Chodesh in the Hebrew. All right. So now within this Chodesh, within the new moon, it happens against the backdrop of the 12 constellations. So when the new moon took place at 3:30 Eastern time, all right, when it took place at the same moment across all time zones. So it has to be adjusted for the time zone where you live at or where anybody else is. But it happened in one instant. Right now, if I'm speaking to somebody that's in Alaska, the person that's in China can hear me at the same moment. The person in South America can hear me at the same moment. So that's what I mean when it says it's happening simultaneously. All right. So it happened in the 7th degree of Masharah. The 7th degree of Masharah. All right. The 7th degree, which is the second constellation. The 7th degree in 47 minutes. All right. Because it's divided in a circle. The constellations are divided within a circular pattern like your clock is. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13, verse 2 real quick. All right. And the sister Yawadaya, can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me or not. Let me know if you can hear me, please. Let me know whether or not I'm coming across.
From Columbus.
I don't know. Let me know if you can hear me or not, please. Yawadaya. All right. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but tell me if you can or not. Oh, you got that? Let's go into a Wisdom of Solomon 13 and 2.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verse 2. But either fire or wind.
Fire or wind, go ahead.
Or swift air.
Or swift air.
Or the the circle of the stars.
Or the circle of the stars. So Solomon, who is the wisest man, intelligent man, he's talking about the circle of the stars. So when he's talking about the circle of the stars, he's talking about the constellations. Now, if you have a circle is 360 degrees. And in this 360 degrees, if you have 12 constellations, that means that each constellation is divided within a 30 degree area, because 30 times 12 is 360. 360 is the measurement of a circle. So that circle cut into 12 equal parts would give it 30 degrees of that total 360 degree circle. Okay, so that 360 degrees is divided by 12 constellations, and each constellation holds 30 degrees. So right now, we're in about the 7th or the 8th degree of the second constellation. That's where the moon is physically at right about now, because it coincided, or it crossed paths with the sun, making what we call an inferior conjunction. Inferior meaning a short distance. Conjunction meaning lining up with something. So inferior conjunction meaning that it's lining up with the sun. Okay? Superior conjunction is when we have the full moon. Superior meaning the distance from the sun and the moon is great. And conjunction meaning it's lined up with the moon. With the moon and sun. Okay? All right, so let's read Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. All right? And this is to be a short lesson, but just sharing a lot of good information with you and going into the symbolic meaning of where we are now in time and space, and how it relates to us now on the earth, and then showing you examples from the Bible of these principles being put in motion by Yahweh and by Solomon throughout history. All right, Genesis 1:14, it says, go ahead.
And the highest said, let luminaries come into being in the firmament of the sky.
So this is talking about the lights in the firmament. Go ahead.
For illumination of the earth, to separate between the day and between the night.
So to divide the day from the night. Go ahead.
And let them be for signs.
Let them be for sign. That's why they call these things signs. Now the signs is talking about 12 exact signs. These are 12 signs. And of course that word for signs is not the only way that these things can be interpreted as signs. But these signs, what is a sign meant for? A sign is meant to indicate and tell you something. It's not something that's just there for nothing. All right? You have a sign on your apartment. You have a sign on your building. You have a sign on your house that says your address. And that's so everybody can know, hey, this is where these people live. All right? You have a sign in your car that says how much gas you have. You have a sign in your engine or on your dashboard that says the VIN number, the vehicle identification number for your car. So a sign is meant to convey a meaning of something to you. That's what a sign is for. This sign is for Main Street. This sign is for 2nd Avenue, so you know where you are and how that plays into the direction that you need to go to, right? That's what a sign is for. And once you see what the sign is, you have to plug that sign into the equation of what you got going on. All right, so Yahweh gave us these signs, and these signs tell us things that need to happen on the earth. All right, so we go into Genesis chapter 1. It talks about these signs, If you look at these signs in the Greek and the Hebrew, it's going to tell you something like a wath or a thath, which means something that's marked. All right, something that's marked. And even if it's a sign that's moving, it's still the same sign. In other words, if you see on the side of a vehicle something that says blank sheriff department, that's the sign to you that, oh, this is the sheriff. No matter what highway it's on, what road it's on, it's still the sheriff. Now, when it goes out of its jurisdiction, you still know, oh, it's out of its jurisdiction because it's in a different county. Still has a gun, still has handcuffs, still has a vehicle, still has a radio. But it's just out of its jurisdiction. But if it sees something happening that needs to get adjusted, like somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, it can still detain you or address you at gunpoint until the proper jurisdiction gets there. Okay? Until the proper jurisdiction gets there. But if you're out of alignment with what's happening, you're throwing everything off course. So if you're looking at the white moon or the crescent moon as the new moon, you're not in alignment with Yahweh. All right? So let's keep reading. Let them be for signs. Go ahead.
And for seasons.
And for seasons. Seasons, of course, meaning Moedim. When things happen at a specific cycle, like the feast days. So we look at these constellations, and the constellations are the backdrop to all of the seasons, all of the feast days, all of the Moedim, all of the celebrations. Go ahead. Signs, seasons, go ahead.
And for days.
These are for specific days. When is the day going to start? And then when is that day, when is it going to end? What is the specific day? For example, when Passover starts and when the new moon starts for the month of Abib, the moon is in a specific set of constellations, a specific set of stars. Most people don't know it because they're not observing these things happening in the physical space. These things happen in the physical space. All right, Adriana Raka, Shalom. These things are happening in a specific physical space. But if you're not paying attention or you're not looking at the records or the references, you won't know. All right, go ahead.
And for years.
And for years. So the constellations, the backdrop, is helping you determine when the year is. Khan? It's helping you determine when the year is. Khan? 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 All right, so when this thing happens, the year starts. And it happened last month when we started the month of Bib. So right now we're in the month of Short. Short in the Bible in the time of King Solomon, and then after the Babylonian captivity, we stopped calling it, it's called Zeew. Z-E-E-W or Z-I-W. In the Bible, that's what it calls it. But after the Babylonian captivity, we started to call it Short, which means a bull, or Shawar, which means a bull or bullock. Or you can say bull, bullock, whatever. All right. So now, the Yod means a blossom. That's what it was called in the Babylonian time frame. All right, which means blossom. But in the Hebrew time frame, it was called before our captivity, it was called Ziwa. All right. Now let's break this down real quick. Let's go on to 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 1. I want to pull out the name of the month from the Bible. Even though we say Iyar or Iyar now, our king called it, in his time frame, it was called Ziwa. Ziwa. All right. Most people say Ziv. They say Ziv now because V is easier for people to hear than the W. It's easier for me to, if I say Ziv, you can hear the V. But if I say Ziv, it's harder to hear the W, right? Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 1. Read.
And it happened in the 440th year of the departure of the sons of Israel from Egypt in the 4th year.
In the 4th year, here, I'll trade places with him. Or just read a lot louder. Read a lot louder so we can hear you.
In the 4th year, in the 2nd month.
In the 2nd month, go ahead.
When King Solomon reigned over Israel. That the king commanded, and they took great costly stones.
So they took the stones, go ahead.
For the foundation.
For the foundation.
Of the house.
So this is for the foundation of the house. This is the second month. Let's look at verse 37 now. We're in 1 Kings 1. Let's see if we get a verse 37. Now some of these numbers are different. Let's look in the other Bible. Get in your Bible. 1 Kings 1:37. Well, let's see. Which is going to be 4th. It's going to be 3rd range, okay? You see it in yours, man? Read that, 1 Kings 1:37. 6:37. My bad, 6:37.
In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of Yahweh laid in the month Ziv.
All right, so it says the month Ziv, which is Ziwa in the Hebrew. So here we have the name of the month. And give me verse 1 in here too.
And it came to pass in the 480th year, after the children of Yasharahla were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziv.
All right, in the month Ziv, Ziwa. So you don't have a name in your book, right? All right, so that's the name of the month, Ziwa. All right, so that's the name of the month that we're in right now. Okay, and also what we're going to do is we're going to break this month down so to see what it means. Now, there's a lot of symbology in this month. Number one, it's the 2nd month of the year. And if you look at this in Hebrew, you'll see 2 and 2. Because 2, of course, means, after 1. And the word for year itself means repetition or doubling. So it means 2 also. So you have 2, 2nd month in the 2nd cycle, 2 and 2, which is what? 2 and 2 is what?
4.
It's 4. So now we have the number 4. Now we have the number 4. Okay. So when we look at this number 4, and I'm gonna get into this a little, give you more understanding. We got 2 and 2, 4. Now, the Hebrew name of the month before the captivity, Ziwa, all right, which is a Za and a Wa, represents 7 and 6 in the ordinal counting from the Hebrew alphabet, which gives us 13, which gives us 1 plus 3, which gives us 4, which gives us the 4th letter, which is Dalat. And if we look at the other name that we called it after the Babylonian captivity, which is Iyar, which is Alap, Yad, and Ra'ash, that represents 10. That represents actually 1, 10, and 200, which gives us 211, which is 2 plus 1 plus 1, which also gives us 4, which is 2 and 2. All right, so now we have 2 triangles actually. We have 2 triangles. And that triangle itself, in this context, when we read inside the scripture, how many sides, how many corners, and how many sides are in the foundation? In the foundation of most houses, most buildings, of the temple that Solomon's building. How many sides does it have?
4.
How many sides?
4.
And how many corners does it have? So we have 4 sides and we have 4 corners. Now we see the two names for this month kind of coming forward a little bit. So this is the foundation that the head of the nation of Israel is laying for the family of Israel so that we can worship the head of all things, which is Yahweh. So we have the head, we have the family, we have the foundation for the house being built. So this shows us the leadership and the household for not only Solomon and not only for the families of the tribes of Israel, but also for the descendants, the progeny of the children of Israel, to be able to worship at this place that was destroyed. And of course, we know that the temple was destroyed, but we see in the Corinthians that your body now is the temple. And as a matter of fact, not only does it talk about the body building the temple, we have 1 Kings chapter 6, where it talks about Solomon's temple being laid down, all right, which is the temple for Yahweh's house, all right. And then we have your body. We have your body being called the temple also, right? We have your body being called the temple. So now everything that happened inside that temple, your body is now, like a place of holiness, a place of sanctity, a place that's used to, for gatherings within yourself to worship Yahweh, all right? To worship Yahweh. A place that's used to worship Yahweh, a place that's used to offer up spiritual sacrifices. Okay, so it relates then, but it also relates into the actual temple then, and it also relates to your body now. All right. Now, as I said, 1 Corinthians talks about your body being the temple, and then 1 Kings talks about the actual temple. All right, but it's 1 Kings 6, and it's also in 1 Corinthians 6. All right. So let's go into 1 Kings chapter 6, 1 and 7. It talks about Ziwa this month, whose value equals 4, and the temple was laid out. The Solomon, the foundation was set up. Now, it happened in the second month, right? Now let's go into Numbers chapter 1, and let's read verses 1 through 3. Numbers chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. And let's see what else was happening in the wilderness before Solomon. All right. Numbers chapter 1, read that.
And Yahweh spoke to Moses.
Yahweh was speaking to Moses. Go ahead.
In the wilderness of Sinai,
in
the tent of witness, on the first of the second month.
This day, this is the anniversary of Yahweh speaking to Moses when the tabernacle was finished. All right. On the second month, the first day, which is exactly where we are now. So today is the anniversary of this conversation that we're reading about in the book of Numbers. Con? So this is the anniversary. So Yahweh is speaking to Moses, and what's he saying to him? Go ahead.
Take a sum total.
Take a sum total, which means take a census. Go ahead.
Of the whole congregation.
Of all of the congregation. Go ahead.
Of the sons of Israel. Which
is all of us. Bnei Yisrael, or Masharah Yasharahla. Take a sum of all of the sons of Israel. Masharah Yasharahla. Read.
According to their families.
According to their what?
Their families.
So now we see that the families had to organize and structure themselves, which you should be trying to organize and moving in the direction to structure your family now. Because this is what's happening. This is what Yahweh is telling Moses to do. Get the families in order. And let's count the families. Read.
According to their paternal houses.
According to their paternal houses. Now, what tribe are you from? Who's your father? Who's your father's father? Now, this is where it gets deep. Go ahead.
According to the number by their names.
The number by their names. Go ahead.
According to their head.
The head. So now we have tribal heads. We have tribal heads for the whole nation. Okay? So there was one head for the nation. And that head of the 12 tribes is going to have to take an account for his people and make sure that his people are numbered properly. Okay? So we got this number. Now we have the number 12 coming forth. Read.
Every male from 20 years and above.
Every male that's 20 plus years. If you're a male that's 20 plus years, raise your hand. All right, every male that's 20 plus years, go ahead.
Everyone who goes out.
Everyone who does what?
Who goes out.
Everyone who goes out, go ahead.
In Israel's force.
Which means in the army. So these are the men 12, 20 years old and over that belong to each of the 12 tribes of Israel that are ready to go out and defend and to attack for the nation of Israel on behalf under the power and name of Yahweh. So this is the physical army. So each of the males had to be counted in order to know how much men we had to go to war, to fight, to kill, to defend. Khan? And it happened today. This is the anniversary on the second day. On the first day of the second month. All right, go ahead.
Enroll them with their force.
Enroll them with their force, meaning take a census and enroll them with the army. Go ahead.
You and Aaron are to enroll them.
So the spiritual levels of leadership and priesthood were the ones that were supposed to be responsible for making sure that the men were counted properly. Now, let's jump from there and let's go to verse 4.
And with you.
And with you, go ahead.
Shall be each of the rulers.
Each of the rulers, go ahead.
According to the tribe of each.
Each of the rulers of the 12 tribes. So there was a single head that was over different multiple heads for the structuring and the governance of the tribes of Israel. So this shows you we have to have unity in what? In leadership. We have to have unity in leadership. We can't have loosely connected congregations, camps, churches, organizations with no structure of accountability for the leaders. This is not a biblical model that we're operating under in 2025. We're operating under a very disorganized structure that is not what our forefathers did. Our forefathers were structured and ordered and organized as a nation. Khan? All right, go ahead.
They shall be according to paternal houses.
And it was according to your father. So you had to be structured and organized with your father in them. If I see y'all out here getting sleepy, y'all gonna make me sleepy. So if everybody can be sitting up and be alert, because you're throwing that energy my way. You're making me sleepy and tired and want to put my head down and fold my arms, and I don't want that energy while I'm up here trying to talk. You know, if you see somebody yawning, what you gonna do? 9 times out of 10, you gonna yawn. And I don't want to be up here yawning, okay? So I want awake. I want alert, awake, stand up on your feet energy if you need to be involved mentally and physically in what's going on. All right? So now, then it distracts me and throws me off of what we're talking about. All right? So now we see that the paternal line, your father, your son, Your grandfather, everybody was accounted for in your line. Who's your family? Where you come from? Who your peoples is, boy. So now you see you had to have a relationship with your family. You weren't just disconnected, thrown into a city to get a job and to work and pay bills. So that's where you get weak at, because now it's literally you against the world. But when you go into other places like Jordan, Africa, when you go into Turkey, the families are structured and organized to this day. It was Ahmed Bakan, right? Bakan. You see their name on all the buildings. All of the buildings this one family owned you knew this family owned it because their name was at the top of that building. All right? Your name was at the top of the building. So you see all of these things. So you got the census of the warriors. This is a census of warriors led by the heads of those tribes. Anybody understand that? And they took this census on the first day of the second month, which is the new moon. All right? Let's go into chapter 7, verse 3. We're going to chapter 7, verse 3. All right, chapter 7, verse 3. All right, let's go into chapter 7, and let's start with verse 3. I'm gonna start with verse 1. And it came to pass on the day which Moses finished so as to set up the tent, and he anointed it and consecrated it and all its furnishings and the altar and all its utensils, and he anointed them and consecrated them, and the rulers of the house, 12 rulers of their paternal houses offered. These were the rulers of the tribes. These are the ones who presided over the overseeing. Verse 3, pick it up.
And they brought their gift before Yahweh. 6 covered wagons.
They brought 6 covered wagons. Go ahead.
And 12 cattle.
And 12 cattle. 6 covered wagons and 12 cattle. Go ahead.
A wagon.
A wagon. Go ahead.
From 2 rulers.
A wagon from 2 rulers. Go ahead.
And a calf from each.
Okay, go ahead.
And they advanced before the tent.
So you have 2 cows, 2 bulls pulling a wagon. And there's 6 wagons. So that's, again, what do we have? We have this 6. We have 6 wagons. But pulling these wagons are 12 oxen. Okay? We have 6 months for the cold season, and we have 6 months for the hot season. And you have 12 divisions in the sky of these 12 constellations. So now you have the 12 oxen right here. Each are being given by one of those 12 princes. So now we have 12 oxen. Okay? So now we have 12 oxen, 6 wagons for the tabernacle. So if we bring it all together, what do we have? We have we have ox, which is one of the names for the second month. We have 12 oxen now, but we have an ox in the month of the ox, all right, in the month of splendor, or the month of blossoms. When I say the month of the ox, I'm talking about the meaning of this second month in the celestial aspect is pictured by the constellation, which is an ox, which is a shore. That's the name of that Masharah group. And within that Masharah group, we have blossom and splendor, things starting to grow and look pretty within this time frame, transition. That's why they say April showers bring May flowers. So we're kind of in April now, the second month going into May, and we're going to start to see more flowers starting to grow and bloom and blossom, and more rain. And we're getting the ground ready too with the ox. Remember, we had an ox in the first month also. Abib is an ox, a house, a hand, and a house. Let's get ready to get this soil and do the repairs on the house after the winter time. That's what the month name is telling you. So we have this one, Zawa, or Zawa, or Ziwa. What's that telling? They're telling us get the weapons out, the sharp instruments, the threshing instruments, to be planted and hooked, meaning focus on what you have to do now around your house, for your garden, things that pertain to you. The planting, the hooking, Solomon did what? Laid that foundation to make the building get planted into the ground. See, everything kind of comes together. But we didn't make this up. It's already inside the scriptures. These things are happening. And on this second month, Yahweh talks to Moses, you know, this is what I want you to do. This is how you're going to do it. All right. And I want it to be laid out for you. All right. Let's read that. Let's read that verse again. Numbers chapter 7, verse 3.
Numbers chapter 7, verse 3. And they brought the gift before Yahweh, 6 covered wagons and 12 cattle, a wagon from 2 rulers, and a calf from each. And they advanced before the tent.
All right, so that's 12 wagons. Now, and it's kind of like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's crazy, but it's like super symbolic. I don't know if I have the, I'm gonna jump. All right, let's jump real quick. I can't really I allow you sharing your screen with something that's not for us. A game of song pop go. So can you take that off? Somebody have talk to Ayla real quick, take that off. I want to go into 1 Kings chapter 7, which is where we are, right? I want to go into verse 25. All right? 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 25. We was in 1 Kings 7. What's that? What else on that? All right, so we was in 1 Kings, right? We was in 6. Let's jump into 7 now. Let's go into 7:25. All right, thanks for stopping the pop song go. I want you to read this now. We just read about what? We just read about the 12 oxen that each prince gave in the wilderness for the dedication of the tabernacle. Now let's see what Solomon does with 12 oxen also. Read.
And he placed the 10 Nenekoth, 5 on the shoulder of the house on the right, and 5 on the shoulder of the house on the left, and the sea on the shoulder of the house on the right, eastward on the side of the south.
Yeah, we got some funny. We got some funny wording, so we got to just hold up a minute, because the numbers are different. Let's read verse 13 in that verse, Mario. Sometimes you got to, when you coming out the nets, sometimes you got to scan through and see which verse. Sometimes it's going to be in parentheses. All right, so read 25 in parentheses, which is 13 in the nets of third reigns. All right, read that.
And 12 oxen were under the sea.
The sea representing the water or the basin of the laver, where the priest would go and wash up with hands and feet and stuff. Read.
The 3 facing north.
3 face the north. Go ahead.
And the 3 facing sea.
3 face the sea, which means west. Go ahead.
And the 3 facing south.
The south, which is toward the Negev desert. Go ahead.
And the 3 facing east.
3 facing the east, which is where the sun rises. Go ahead.
And all the hindquarters were toward the house.
Go ahead.
And the sea was upon them from above.
Okay. So everybody see that? So you had these bulls facing north, east, south, and west. So now we got 12 bulls again. All right. So in the book of Numbers, we have the 12 princes being responsible for the census of the warriors in the second month. And in this same second month, all right, in this same second month, what do we have also happening? We have this dedication of the tabernacle in the wilderness. And then we have Solomon, and then we have the 12 bulls. And then again, when Moses, the tabernacle time wears out, and Solomon builds an actual temple for the children of Israel, we have 12 bulls again with this water. Okay? We have 12 bulls again with this water. Now, what's significant about these 3 bulls facing north, east, south, and west? This is the same arrangement that we had in the wilderness for the tabernacle. The tabernacle was at the center, and the children of Israel were facing north, east, south, and west with 3 tribes in each direction. All right, let's go into Numbers chapter 2, verse 3 through 9, real quick.
Numbers chapter 2, verse 3.
Go ahead.
And those who encamped first towards the east, the unit of the camp of Judah with their force.
So there's Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, all right, facing the east. Go ahead.
And the ruler of the son.
Was that the north or the east? It's the east, right? All right, go ahead.
And the ruler of the sons of Judah.
Give me verse 10 now.
The unit of the camp of Reuben.
So Reuben, that's Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. Go ahead.
Towards the southwest.
All right, now give me verse 18.
The unit of the camp of Ephraim.
That's Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. Facing what direction?
By the sea with their force.
The sea by the force. Remember, the sea represents the west because the Red Sea is to the west of Israel. Not the Red Sea, but the Mediterranean Sea is west of Israel. And the last one facing north, who's that?
The unit of the camp of Dan.
So that's Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, okay?
Towards the north with their force.
Now look at this. Now you got Dan, Asher, and Naphtali on the north. But if you're in South America, which is, we in the, so sometimes like we see with the Fertile Crescent, things are topsy-turvy once we leave the east and come to the west. Okay, geographically, okay? So now in the south, who do we have in the south? We have Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. So if you're in South America, you got Naphtali, Argentina, and Chile, right? Then you have Asher, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, right? And then you got, who do you got right there? You got Dan and some of the Kalipuna Indian groups in South America and the Guyanas, as well as the Guyanas and some of Venezuela touching the Guyanas also. So you have those 3 tribes still together in the Western Hemisphere now. And when you leave from the land of Asher, Venezuela, and you jump where? Where you going to come to first? Where you going to arrive to first? You leave Venezuela, what's the island you're going to come to when you leave Venezuela? Well, island nation. You're going to come into Venezuela. You're going to come from Venezuela and you're going to go into Trinidad, Tobago. Now, Trinidad, Tobago is also a designation for the tribe of what? Tribe of Dan. All of the islands is where Dan was. Now we're going into the Western territories. So Dan was a buffer zone between South America and who? Who came into Trinidad, Tobago, Anguilla, and took over those territories under the Gentiles that conquered those areas and came there in slavery? Who came there? Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados. Who came there? What tribe came to those places? Benjamin came there. So and then once Benjamin came there, right? Once you leave those Benjamite territories, right? Once you leave Benjamite territory, you got a buffer zone that they call the U.S. Virgin Islands. And when you leave the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Benjamin was at, what's the first island you hit? Puerto Rico. So that's when you come into what tribe? Ephraim. Right? That's when you run into Ephraim. And then when you leave from Ephraim, you keep on going, you're gonna run into another tribe. But let's skip them tribes. Why are we gonna skip them tribes? Why are we gonna skip over the island of Hispaniola, Quisqueya, the mother of all lands? Why are we gonna skip over their tribes? Because in Ephraim's Puerto Rico and Manasseh, Cuba, in their songs, they say what? They say Puerto Rico and Cuba are what? Two wings of the same bird. Look it up. Google it. Ask ChatGPT. Okay? Ask Jeeves. All right? It says they are two wings of the same bird. So they skipped over Hispaniola. They skipped over Quisqueya, the mother of all lands. They skipped over and said, we're gonna go from Puerto Rico, we're gonna skip Dominican Republic and Haiti, and we're gonna go right to where? To Cuba. They made that skipping. In their songs, they made the skipping. All right? They made the skipping in the songs. So now you leave there. Don't worry, we're gonna come back there, but not yet. We're gonna come back there. We in the western part of the camp of Israel, which just so happens to be organized according to the geography of Israel in the Western Hemisphere now. So you got Benjamin, Manasseh, and Ephraim. Ephraim is Puerto Rico. Manasseh is Cuba. And when you leave from Cuba, where do you jump to when you leave Cuba? When you leave Cuba, what land are you going to come to when you leave Cuba? Come on, y'all. Y'all don't know there's maps all over the building. When you leave Cuba, where are you going to go to? Where are you going to arrive at? Anybody? Anybody?
Dominican Republic.
Anybody? No, not Dominican Republic.
Oh, Florida.
You're gonna go into I need some chords to I'm dying over 12%.
When you leave Cuba,
When you-
don't you like start heading into like Florida?
When you leave Cuba, you're gonna go into Florida. And whose land is that? That's the tribe of Reuben, which is the tribe that were on the southern part of the camp in the wilderness. Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. That's why I say Simeon is kind of disoriented a little bit, but but they already told you in their song, skip over Simeon and Haiti, okay? Because they were placed together in the island. So now you got Reuben, and when you leave Reuben and you go up to Alabama and you go up to Georgia, who you run into now? You run into Gad. All right, you run into Gad. You're literally going to run into the tribe of Gad. And when you run into Gad, you're going to also run into what other tribe? Judah. Now you're going into the eastern side of the tabernacle camp in the wilderness. Now you run into Judah. And this is all in your Bibles. So when you run into Judah, right? When you run into Judah, when you run into Judah, where you going to go after that? When you run into Judah, okay, you want to Gad and Judah now. And now you run into, when you leave Judah and Gad's territories, right? when you leave Judah and Gad's territories, where you gonna run into? You're gonna run into Issachar's territory, which is central Mexico, because northern Mexico is also Gad's territory. When you're in Tecate, when you're in Matamoros, when you're into Monterrey, that's Gad's territory. That's why 2 of the 4th largest cities in Mexico are in the north, because Gad is a troop. Gad is a troop. So you have Tijuana, and then you have Monterrey. On the northern part, those are Gadite states. Coahuila, Chihuahua, Baja California, Nuevo León, and you got Tamaulipas. Those are Gadite territories. Those aren't Issacharite territories, but they are in the territory of Issachar, which is Mexico. So they leave them northern areas. You go down south, who do you run into? Now you're gonna run into Issachar, which was in the wilderness, it was Judah, then Issachar. And then can you guess which tribe in the wilderness was also associated with Judah and Issachar? Just give me a wild guess. Which tribe is next on the map? You run into Judah, then Issachar, then who you gonna run into if you keep going south? Zebulun. You're gonna run into Zebulun, and that's exactly how it was set up in the wilderness. It's the same setup in the wilderness. Okay, I forgot all about that over there. That's how it's set up in the wilderness. So these 12 priests in the wilderness, these 12 princes in the wilderness, we have the same setup in the Western Hemisphere as we had in the wilderness with the 12 princes. And what did the 12 princes bring? What did they bring? They brought 12. They brought 12 bulls. And when they brought the 12 bulls, when they brought the 12 bulls, all right, outside the tabernacle, they had the 12 bulls that were being brought to pull the wagons for the priests. Now, they were gifts to the priests. And then we get into the temple area, you had the 12 bull that were sculpted to hold up the water for the priests. Okay? And then that same setup of the 12 princes in the wilderness for the camp of Israel, facing the north, east, south, and west, you have that same geographic design of the location of the 12 tribes that Yahweh used as the blueprint for us in the Americas. And that's why when you go the camp of the north, Dan, Asher, Naphtali, that's South America and the Southern Caribbean. And then you have the western part, which is Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, which is the western part of the occupation and the islands. All of these are island tribes, and they were all together in the wilderness. Then after that, you go to the southern tribes, which connect what? The southern part of America, because it starts with Simeon in the south. And then you got the southeastern tribes that they call the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, right? And the so-called Seminole, all right? And then they had another tribe, which was considered the quote-unquote civilized tribes, which just meant that they had writing and reading that Esau wanted to recognize, but all of them pretty much had it, all right? And then again, you can put Simeon up there with Judah. Once you get to Judah, this is a trivia question. Once you get to Judah in America, you automatically group Simeon back with Judah. Why? Because Simeon's territory in the land of Israel was with Judah. Simeon was geographically with the tribe of Judah. And when you go into New York, you got Puerto Ricans and you got Simeon, but the ones that get together, that get along better with Judah, black Americans, is not Ephraim, but it's Simeon. Simeon gets along better with Judah than any other so-called Spanish-speaking tribe. And this is what we can see. This is what we know. All right, so you could be black American and be in Dominican Republic. They say, oh, ¿cómo está, hermano, amigo, primo? And then you could be black, look the same way from Haiti. It'd be like, oh, it's maldito haitiano. It's damn Haitian. Same, looking the same way. So it's not racist. They just don't like Levi because of the curse that was put on Levi and Simeon because of what they did against Jacob and made Jacob's name to stink amongst the Hamites when they lied and made a covenant with the people of Shechem, and they joined in warfare and they slaughtered them. And they did the same thing against the Spanish. And then Levi turned against Yahweh, and instead of saying Yahweh, he started to say bon Dieu, and he started to get into other spiritual practices which were against the Bible. But that's a whole different story. But this is how you link up Simeon and Levi together again. And this is how you connect Simeon with Judah. And when you go into New York City, you go into Spanish Harlem right now, Simeon is with Judah. All right? I mean, Ephraim's there too, but that bond is from the Dominicans and the black Americans. You want to kind of dive into that a little bit?
It's all I can say is growing up, Simeon just treated you more like a brother. And
Than Ephraim did?
yeah, the politics in New York is if you grew up in a neighborhood with Ephraim, then you were cool with Ephraim within that neighborhood. But if it was an all Ephraim neighborhood, there was always friction. And the main friction was they didn't really like Judah messing with their women. Judah could care less if Ephraim was messing with Judah's women, but Ephraim definitely had a problem with Judah messing with their women.
So back to Simeon.
And Simeon, I mean, it was just, brothers, sisters. I mean, just a cool vibe. And really, Simeon acts more like Judah than Ephraim.
Well, Judah and Simeon act more alike than
Right.
Ephraim and Judah.
Right. And then musically, they're more compatible, Simeon and Judah.
But remember, if you look on a map, of ancient Israel, you will see that Simeon was inside the territory of Judah. And this explains why so many people that looked like Judah were taken from West Africa and brought to Hispaniola, or brought to Santo Domingo, or brought to Quisqueya in slavery, because they were in the same place. But Yahweh and the people there knew the distinction between which one of y'all were Judah and which one of y'all were Simeon. All right? Because don't think that the way Judah, and this is, don't think that Judah came out. Listen to this very carefully, y'all. Don't think that Judah, Simeon, Levi, Benjamin, and Ephraim, okay, Asher, do not think in 1,000 years that Judah, who went in slavery, Asher, who went in slavery from West Africa, Simeon, who went in slavery from West Africa, okay, Levi, who went in slavery from West Africa, Benjamin, who went in slavery from West Africa, Issachar, who went in slavery from West Africa. Do not think in 1,000 years that they left Africa looking the same way as they did when they first went in there. Okay? Don't think that. There's no way, Because why? Simeon and Judah, when you read the Bible, they both married and had babies with African women. Joseph had babies with African women. Okay? That's just 3 tribes I'm talking about. All right? I'm not going into Manasseh right now. They went in slavery too from West Africa, but they were brought from West Africa. But it's all, those are the, you could probably say Puerto Rico and Manasseh talk more about their Afro-Latino bloodline than Simeon does, but Simeon does address it. Simeon doesn't talk about it, but Simeon is probably less prejudiced and less discriminating against so-called against Judah than Ephraim and Cuba.
Okay.
All right. So out of all of them, Ephraim probably, Simeon's the one that's probably most embracing socially of the tribe of Judah.
Good.
I was in a car one time with somebody from Puerto Rico, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a bunch of, and it was in Columbus, Ohio, and there was a bunch of Hamites from Africa that were like being hired over Black American Judah for different jobs. Like, man, these Africans come over here and they just think they can just take all the jobs. And it was like, yeah, like somebody owed him something. That's what the Puerto Rican guy said. Like somebody owed him something. Like this, like everything belongs to them. And in his tone, I knew he was talking about Black Americans. I was like, I'm not talking about Black Americans. I'm talking about Black people that came here just now from Africa. He's like, oh, I think you were talking about the Black Americans. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, no, I'm talking about the ones, the African. I'm like, those people are Judah. Those Israel, those are, but yeah, those they're good people, but I thought you were talking about the ones from, and this is the guy who was born in Puerto Rico.
Right.
He thought I was talking about Judah. I'm like, no, I'm talking about Ham, bro. I'm talking about Ham. Yeah.
All right.
So now going back though, this same setup of the 12 tribes in this part of the world, in the Western Hemisphere, is the same as the setup in the wilderness. But the constellation that we're in, what do we have? We have the 12 tribes and the 12 princes with Moses. We have the 12 tribes and the 12 princes and the 12 ox with Moses for the tabernacle. We have the 12 tribes and the 12 princes bringing the gifts for the tabernacle and on 12 bulls. And then we have the 12 bulls being represented at the tabernacle, facing north, east, south, and west. Then we have the 12 oxen, where there's 12 tribes in the wilderness facing 3 tribes facing north, east, south, and west. So these 12 bulls for the 12 princes representing the unity of leadership in the constellation that we're in right now. We're in the constellation of the bull. That's why people call it the Taurus, because it looks like a bull with 2 horns. It's not astronomy. I mean, it's not astrology, it's astronomy. That's the literal shape that Yahweh designed it as. You think people just came from their imagination and said, oh, this is the bull, all right? This is water. Now, these things were in the heavens before astrology was created. They're astronomical shapes, okay? So now this is the Kodesh HaSheni, which is new month second. And then we got the Shana for the year, the second month of the year, which is 2 and it's double. So in the ordinal sense, this month is represented by a bet, bayat or bait, which is a house structure for protection and shelter, which represents the family, and the foundation of Yahweh's house was also established in this month. Okay, by the head. Who was the head of the house of Israel when the temple was built? King Solomon. So we got the head of everything getting a house built for him by the head of Israel. And then we have Moses, the head of Israel, gathering all these 12 tribes together in the second month also, the leadership. So that's why this month is a very, biblically speaking, it's a month of leadership, unity, and the household being audited for what needs to be and what can be done. Because this is actually what Moses did in the wilderness in this second month, when he took the census on the first day of the month. He continued and they brought everything else out. All right. They brought all of the offerings and everything, right, in the first day of the second month. Okay. All right. So now, as I said earlier, your structure of your house, we see two instances of on the second month, the unity amongst the tribes. And we see accountability of, okay, what can this person bring to contribute for the house of Yahweh? So we have to be organized and structured as a nation in order to do these things. And your household has to be in order in order to do these things. So you can provide and benefit from what's being provided, all right, regarding the nation and your descendants. Okay? So now when we talk about the bull, which is the constellation that we're in right now, why did Yahweh put a bull up there for the second constellation? The bull and why did Yahweh got a bull being presented in the second month by the 12 tribes of Israel? Okay. And why did Solomon have bulls representing the 12 tribes facing east, north, south, and west inside the temple? You see that? So these are things to, okay, 12 bulls, 12 bulls, 12 bulls, 12 tribes, 12 tribes, 12 tribes, north, east, south, and west. All right. And that we know that now, when you talk about the 12 tribes of Israel and you talk about north, east, south, and west, right now we know that that represents what? The diaspora. And what was at the center of the 12 bulls at the temple? Water. Israel being taken on ships across the waters. From East Africa, we went to India. From West Africa, we went into the Americas. And we went into Europe. From East Africa, we went into Asia and Turkey, the Middle East, and we went into Iran and Iraq, and we went into India and Pakistan in captivity. Also China and Japan, Philippines in captivity, all right, from Israel and from West Africa. So that water has a very different meaning now than it had when we first started out, when we were good with Yahweh. Okay, so now the value of this month, the name of the month, Ziwa, is 4. Now let's go into that 4. That 4 represents a door. What does the door represent? A door represents transition. Why do I say represent door? Because all of them added together give us the number Dalat, the letter Dalat, which is the 4th letter. What does the door represent? A door represents transition. A door represents something being protected. So let's build up using that understanding. Let's build up to this month. The first month, what do we have? We have nature. We have resources from the ox. All right. Then the second letter, Bayat. What do we have? We have a house. Or we have a house, and we have a man being stable to make a house, going into maturity. Because we have a triangle representing a door, and then we have that hook leaving the door, leaving the triangle, making a house, which represents the man now being able to establish his own household. And then from there, we have what? We have a God. How many lines make a gamal? How many lines make a gamal? 2. So that's the man and the woman. So when the man and woman get together with that, the gamal in the ancient Hebrew is represented like a 7 almost, with each side being the same size. Each side, the left side, the right side, and the upper side are the same size. So once we got that gamal together, that gamal, the man getting with the woman, what comes after that? The Dalat, which now we got 3 sides. So it's the man and woman, and who else?
Sure.
And you. You are the man and woman together. You are the child. So now we see the Dalat, how we see the Dalat clearly representing family, man, woman, and child. Clearly representing family. Even though it's a door, for our intents and purposes, it represents man, woman, child, which is family. All right, even though it's a 4, we have 3 sides. And that's why all the tribes of Israel are represented by these 4 sides of the east, south, west, and north. Now, understand this too. Within that structure of the east, west, north, and south, which is 4 sides, they were divided into, each group was divided into what? Into 3, which represented the heads of which represented the families, man, woman, and child. So you have 3, 3, 3, and 3 coming together to give you 12, which is of course the 12 tribes of Israel. So all this is symbolic, done deliberately by the Most High, by the knowledge that they knew from the Most High, and Moses did it, and Solomon did it in this second month. Okay? And then it just so happened that the names of these months, all right, Iyar and Ziv or Ziv, the names also add up to the number 4, which brings us right back to the Dalat. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, or Alat, Bayat, Gamal, Dalat. Give us 4, the 4th letter. That delta, as a matter of fact, that's the Greek alphabet also. Alpha, beta, gamma, and then delta. Delta comes from Dalat. Same thing, same meaning. It's a triangle shape, but they got it from the Hebrew. So that sword, or the sword, or the bull that we're in now represents building, strong and steady. Okay? If we were in the Native American culture, we would call it the bull moon, because it's the moon that takes place in the constellation of the bull, which represents working into summer, plowing, opening the soil. What do you open the soil for? What are you getting the soil ready to put what? What are you going to put in the soil? Seeds. All right? And what are you? You're a seed. The seed of Jacob, the seed of your father, the seed of your father's house. So you have spiritual and physical meanings of what needs to be done in this month, edifying and all bringing you back to a more thorough understanding of the Hebrew culture, your Hebrew family parameters that you should be living by, also making your family stronger in combination with other families. Strong like a what? Like an ox. All right? And yet and still wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, but strong like an ox. So the power, the strength, and the leadership is what we see for this particular month. Now, last month for Abib, we had the first, second, third, and fourth letter being an ox, a house, a hand, and a house, respectively, which representing getting the animals in your physical house ready, all right, for productivity. And now this actual month in the ox itself is building and productivity. And we see that in the scriptures. We see this building happening in the scriptures. We see the temple foundation being laid, all right? We see the tabernacle stuff being brought on the ox. And then the building itself was finished 7 years later in the second month also, if I'm not mistaken. in the second month also. Okay, and then as we kind of draw to an end, we see that when the Most High was about to enter into the covenant with Abraham, he had him take an ox. Well, I think it says a heifer in the Greek. I mean, it doesn't say short, but people say, oh, it could be. It's a female. It was a female ox, or that was used. All right. So the scriptures that we went over were Leviticus 23, verse 15 through 21 and 11. Well, that's another lesson. We didn't go into that. By the way, we're in the second week and the first day of the Omer. But if it's dark where you at, you're in the second week and the second day of the Omer. We're in day 15 of the Omer. The new moon fell within the 15th day of the Omer count, day 15, which is 2 weeks and 1 day in the Omer count. And the 50th day is when we're going to have the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of the First Fruit. I mean, the Feast of Tabernacles, but the Feast of Weeks. All right, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of the First Fruits. All right, so that's when we're going to have that holy day. In 35 more days, which is 7 weeks, and then the day after that seventh week, which is going to be day number 50, is when we're going to celebrate it. Okay. And I have some more things. It's been about 90 minutes. All right. I have some more things I wanted to bring out, but we're not going to go into it right now. But just understand that this time frame you're in now, everything is done according to what? What's the first thing? What's the first things that we're told? Let the consolation is for what? For signs and what? And seasons. Signs and seasons. So you have to understand the times, the signs for the season that you're in. And when you look at the Bible, you see what Moses was doing at this time, what Yahweh told Moses to do at this time, what Solomon did at this time. All right, and it was usually involved gathering the families and the tribes together to represent and to execute a task that needed to be done for the benefit of the whole nation, and the families had to be structured and organized in order for that thing to take place. Somebody had a question. Go ahead. If I can answer the question, I'll answer it. Khadijah, your hand was up. Go ahead. Shalom.
This is because I'm still new, but I was wondering, what do you do for the Feast of Tabernacles?
Well,
is it like the Feast of Passover?
Yeah, when the Feast of Tabernacles is in the 7th month, the next feast that's coming up is going to be the Feast of Weeks, and it's observed as a holy day. The same way, you keep the Sabbath, you keep that as a holy day, not to buy and not to sell, not to do your own pleasures, but it's a day of feasting. It's a day of praying. It's a day of worship. It's like a super Sabbath, except that you can cook on that day. And then, of course, the passages that talk about that day from Leviticus, Exodus, and Numbers, would be read just to give the understanding of what the day is and what the day is and what it means. But the general view of it is that it would be a day of celebration, and it would be a day of sacrifice, and it would be a day of offering to Yahweh from the first fruits that we would harvest from our land. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And as we get closer to it, we'll review and share information about it, so everybody's privy to it. And also, there was a sheet that was handed out that had all of the celebrations, all of the observances, the days of celebration, the days of fasting that was handed out. It should be within the media section of this particular group. Like it was like good days of Yomim Tovim, and it has all of the scriptures and all of the days that we observe throughout the year. And I know that Masharah definitely has it. Okay. All right. Anybody? Any other questions or comments before we get off? Before we end about this new moon, this new month? Scriptural references we went into to show, what happened in the scriptures. Now, remember though, one thing you have to remember is that this particular day, all right, this particular day, well, the constellations were put in place and created before this. It was so. Yahweh said in verse 15, he said, when he made the firmament and the lights, he said it was so. And what that means is that it was so that any other bodies, the sun, the moon, stars, came after, not before verse 14 of Genesis, and not simultaneous to, which means that when the constellations of the 12 constellations were made, they were made before the sun, before the moon, and before the other stars were created, not simultaneous. Because in verse 15 it says that he made the circle of the stars, the lights in the firmament of the heavens, to be signs, seasons for days and years. And then in verse 15 it says it was so. And then in verse 16 it goes into him making the stars and the other stars and the sun and the moon. But in verse 14 he made the lights in the firmament. And then in verse 15 it says that it was so. Okay, so be careful, because people will try to tell you that, oh, verse 14 is talking about the sun and moon and star, and that's not true, because the sun and moon weren't created until verse 16. All right, so this verse, Genesis 1:14, is talking about the circle of stars that Solomon talks about in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verse 3. That's called Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verse 2. And it's also called Masharah in Job, chapter 38, verse 32. All right. Job, chapter 38, verse 32. All right. So that's it, brothers and sisters. All right. That's it, brothers and sisters. If there are no more questions or comments, all right. I don't think I have anything else that I wanted to share at this point. Anybody?
The baby wants to say shalom.
All right. So
Shalom.
shalom. Shalom, shalom,
Hello.
shalom.
Hey, did it first just happen?
Well, there's two different aspects of first fruits. One is the 16th, when the sheaf offering was waved, but the other first fruits from look at Numbers 28 and 26 real quick. You'll see the first fruits also being associated with the Feast of Weeks. Give me Numbers 28, 26. Read that.
Also, on the day of the first fruits, when you bring a new meat offering to Yahweh, after your weeks be out.
See, after your weeks be out. All right. Which means after the feast, after the you've counted the 7 weeks. Go ahead.
You shall have a holy convocation.
You have a holy convocation. The one you're reading about for the sheaf offering on the 16th day of of Abib that we see in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 11 and verse 15 and 16, or verse 11 rather, that is not a holy convocation. It's on the 16th after Passover on the 15th day. All right, it's not a holy convocation. The one I'm talking about is a holy convocation day that takes place 50 days later. I keep reading.
You shall do no servile work.
So that's going to be a holy convocation. Read.
But ye shall offer the burnt offering for sweet savor unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year.
All right. So the feast of the new things. All right. Which in the Hebrew, when you look at this, it says bikurim, which is like the first fruits or the first things that come out to go to the Most High. So you're doing an actual harvest of all of your stuff. It was the sheaf offering of the grains that were offered in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15. But this one, this first fruits, is the actual harvest that you bring in, and then you bring that to Jerusalem, and 10% goes to the Levites, of course, and then 10% is for you to feast upon. Okay. Does that answer your question, Jay? Okay. All right. So it's a first fruit of the sheaf offering in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15, but it's not a special holy day. All right. It's just that when you got that grain that you're offering unto Yahweh, and it's a sheaf offering. It says, and you shall count, Leviticus 23:15, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. In the Greek, it says the morrow after that holy day. From the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. All right. So the feast of the first fruits is the same thing as the Feast of Weeks. It's called 3 different things in the scriptures. Okay, it's called the Feast of Harvest in Leviticus 23:16, which is Katzir. It's called the Feast of Harvest. In Exodus 23:16, it's called the Bikurim. It's called the Feast of First Fruits. In Numbers 28:26, Numbers 28:26, and it's called the Feast of Weeks. All right, Shabuhoth, in Exodus chapter 34, verse 22. So these are all 3 different names for the same feast day. All right, so they're not different feast days. They're the same feast day, but there's 3 different focuses and emphasis. All right, the Feast of Weeks is the anticipation of counting from Passover and counting them days, and now you got this celebration of the weeks passing. The Feast of the First Fruits is the feast of the first fruits. We're going to give this as an offering to Yahweh. And the Feast of Harvest is we've taken in all of this stuff, so let's eat, let's celebrate, praise the Most High. He's given us this good harvest. So it's 3 different names focusing on 3 different aspects of what's happening on that day and in that time frame. All right. Does that address your concerns, Adriana? So they're not different feast days. They're the same name for different feasts. All right. Ayandabar, you're welcome. No hay de qué, de nada. All right. And probably about maybe on week number, maybe like week number 4, week number 3, we can go into a lesson about it. All right. And also, the significance is leading us into Acts chapter 2, when the Ruach HaKodesh was poured onto the apostles, the disciples that was at Jerusalem on the Feast of Weeks, and the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, and they started to be able to speak in the other languages. And that increased the harvest of believers in the first century. Okay? So that's what everything is leading up to. Okay, as they say, a lot of stuff is the foreshadowing of Hamashiach. Okay? All right, so that's it for right now. Kadash Shalom is still a Kadash over here. We got about 27 minutes before we finish with the Kadash over here. I mean, y'all got a little more time where you are, especially out west. Dominican Republic, y'all just finished. All right. So you got 1, 2, 3. We got a few people that are in California right now. All right. Almost
That's why
everybody.
to California, Zaquan. You got too many people out here.
Yeah, come on. Praise to the Most High, man. Yeah, come out there. Gotta bring my filtered face mask with me too. Yeah, you gotta show me that in the prophecies. We Alabama bound. We Alabama bound. You know, Alabama bound. Selma, Montgomery, Birmingham, and the crescent within the crescent. Western Alabama in the Black Belt. That's Yasharahla's next headquarters. All right, if that's it, everybody. If that's it, everybody, are we gonna get up off of here? And the Most High bless and protect all of you all. All right, both on YouTube and on my Messenger daily prayer family. Y'all don't know if y'all know it or not, but yeah, we have daily prayers on Messenger. If you want to get added to the Messenger group to be able to do the daily prayers with us, just let somebody know that, or send me a message on Messenger to add you to the daily prayers, and we'll add you there so you can pray with us every day. All right, everybody. So shalom to California, shalom to Texas, shalom to República Dominicana, shalom to Washington State. All right, and shalom to San Cristóbal de las Casas, el estado de Chiapas, Estados Unidos Mexicanos, República de los Estados Unidos Mexicanos. Okay. All right, shalom, everybody. Shalom.
Shalom, Zakan. Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom. Bye, buddy. All right, shalom. Kadash shalom. Kadash shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Kadash shalom. All right. All right, everybody. Kadash shalom. I will bless all of y'all. All right, shalom.